The stars had always called to humanity. For 300 years they answered that call. They built ships that could cross the void between worlds. They made homes on distant planets. They raised children under alien suns. By the year 2347, 12 star systems carried the flag of United Earth. Humanity believed they had earned their place among the stars. They were wrong. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the UENS Indomitable, Earth's mightiest warship. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. Around him, officers worked at their stations, monitoring the endless darkness of space. It was supposed to be a routine patrol near the border of human territory. Then the sensors screamed. 1,000 ships appeared from nowhere. They were massive, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their hulls were black as death, decorated with symbols that glowed like dying embers. Park had studied these ships in military reports. He never thought he would see them with his own eyes. The hegemony had come. The hegemony was an empire older than human civilization. They ruled over 40,000 worlds across the galaxy. Hundreds of species served under their iron fist. Some had joined willingly. Most had been conquered. All had learned the same lesson: resist the hegemony and your people would cease to exist. A transmission cut through the bridge. The main screen flickered and a face appeared. It was not human. The creature had pale blue skin stretched over a skull too long and too narrow. Its eyes were completely black, like pools of oil. When it spoke, its voice was cold and empty, like wind blowing through a graveyard. I am the supreme arbiter of the hegemony. I speak for the empire. I speak for the 40,000 worlds. I speak for the races that came before you, and the races that will come after you are forgotten. Park felt ice crawl down his spine. He had faced pirates, rebels, and alien raiders. None of them had made him feel like this. None of them had made him feel small. The Supreme Arbiter continued. Your species has spread across 12 systems without our permission. You have built weapons, you have trained soldiers, you have acted as if this galaxy belongs to you. The creature paused. Its black eyes seemed to stare directly at Park. It does not. This galaxy belongs to the hegemony. It always has. It always will. The message was clear even before the Arbiter finished speaking. You will surrender your fleet. You will disarm your worlds. You will kneel before the hegemony and accept your place as a vassal species. You have 30 standard days to comply. If you refuse, we will erase your species from existence. Every world you have touched will burn. Every human who draws breath will die. You will become nothing more than a forgotten mistake in the history of the cosmos. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. On Earth, the message played on every screen, every device, every public display. 8 billion humans watched an alien emperor demand their complete surrender. For a moment, the entire planet held its breath. President called an emergency session of the United Earth Council within hours. Leaders from every human world gathered in the great chamber beneath the mountains of New Seoul. Their faces were pale. Their hands trembled. They had spent their lives building humanity's future among the stars. Now they were being told that future was already over. Military advisors presented their reports. The numbers were devastating. The hegemony's fleet was 1,000 times larger than humanity's combined forces. Their weapons were centuries more advanced. Their empire had crushed species far older and more powerful than humanity. Logic said there was only one choice: surrender. Some council members agreed. They argued that survival mattered more than pride. They said humanity could rebuild, could wait, could eventually find freedom again. They spoke of patience and practicality. Then Captain asked to speak. He was not supposed to be at the council. He was just a ship captain, a soldier who had been wounded in the border wars and now trained young officers on Earth. But he had served with the president's father. She gave him permission to address the chamber. Walked slowly to the center of the room. His left leg was mechanical, a replacement for the one he had lost fighting raiders 10 years ago. His uniform was simple, without decoration. He looked around at the most powerful humans in existence. "I have studied the hegemony," he said. His voice was quiet but steady. "I have read what happens to vassal species. Do you want to know?" No one answered. "First, they take your weapons. Then they take your ships. Then they take your right to travel between worlds. Then they take your technology. Then they take your books, your art, your music, your languages. They take everything that makes you who you are." He paused. His eyes were hard as stone. "And then, when you are empty, when you have forgotten what it meant to be free, they absorb you. Your children become their servants. You become their slaves. Your great do not even remember that humanity ever existed." He looked at President. "I did not lose my leg so that my species could kneel. I did not watch my crew die so that I could be slaves. I would rather burn than bow." The chamber was silent. Then slowly other voices joined his. Soldiers who had fought, scientists who had built, farmers who had grown food on alien soil. One by one they spoke. When the vote came, it was unanimous. President stood before the cameras. The entire human race was watching. Her voice did not shake. "We have received the hegemony's demand. They have commanded us to kneel." She paused. "Our answer is no. Humanity will not surrender. We will not kneel. We will not bow. If they want our worlds, they will have to take them from our cold, dead hands, and we will make them pay for every single one." Across 12 star systems, humanity prepared for war. The decision to fight was easy. The question of how to fight was impossible. In the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, the leaders of humanity stared at holographic maps that showed their doom. 12 human systems floated like tiny sparks of light. Around them, the hegemony's territory spread across the galaxy like a dark ocean. 40,000 worlds, millions of warships, trillions of soldiers, resources beyond counting. General Han Minyu, Supreme Commander of Human Forces, ran his hand through his short gray hair. He had fought wars his entire life. He had won battles against impossible odds. But this was not a battle. This was an execution waiting to happen. "We cannot win a straight fight," he said. "If we try to meet their fleet in open combat, we will be destroyed in days, perhaps hours." The room was silent. Everyone knew he was right. Then Doctor stood up. She was a small woman with round glasses and messy black hair. She did not look like a soldier. She looked like someone who spent her life reading books and running experiments, which was exactly what she was. But the project she led was not about books or experiments. It was about fire. "There is another way," she said. Her voice was soft, but something in it made everyone listen. "We have been preparing for this moment for over 100 years. She pressed a button and the holographic display changed. Instead of maps, it showed a single word: Ember. Project Ember began in 2241, when our first deep space explorers made contact with the hegemony's border patrols. Our ancestors looked at the galaxy and saw the truth. Sooner or later, the hegemony would come for us. Sooner or later, they would demand that we kneel." Doctor adjusted her glasses. "So they started planning, not how to defeat the hegemony in battle. That was impossible. Instead, they planned how to make the hegemony regret ever threatening us." She pulled up a new display. It showed thousands of red dots scattered across hegemony space. "For the past century, our intelligence operatives have infiltrated hegemony worlds. They have worked as servants, laborers, traders. They have lived among the enemy, raised families, died of old age, and passed their missions to their children. And they have been planting bombs." The room went completely still. "Antimatter charges," Doctor continued. "Hidden beneath cities, inside power stations, under government buildings. Enough explosive force to crack a planet's crust. Enough to kill billions." President stared at the red dots. There were so many of them. How many worlds? 412. including 17 core worlds of the hegemony's ruling houses. General Han Minyu leaned forward. You are telling me that we can destroy 400 hegemony planets? Yes, Doctor's voice did not waver. If they attack us, we burn them. For every human world they destroy, we destroy 10 of theirs. For every million humans they kill, we kill 1 billion of them. We cannot win a war, but we can make sure that fighting us costs them everything. Lieutenant Commander spoke next. She was the head of covert operations, a woman with sharp eyes and a face that revealed nothing. She had spent 20 years running agents across the galaxy. Project Ember was her life's work. The operatives are ready, she said. One signal from Earth and the bombs activate. The hegemony will have no warning, no time to evacuate, no time to stop it. Admiral Park had been silent until now. He was a military man. He believed in fighting enemy fleets, in honorable combat between warriors. What they were describing was not war. It was something else entirely. This is mass murder, he said quietly. We are talking about killing innocent civilians, billions of them. Doctor turned to face him. Her eyes were sad but firm. Yes, we are. And if we do not, the hegemony will kill every human in existence, every man, woman, and child. They will erase us from history. Is that better? Park had no answer. President stood up. She walked to the holographic display and looked at the red dots spread across the galaxy. Each dot was a world. Each world held billions of lives. She was being asked to hold all those lives in her hands. We will not strike first, she said finally. We are not murderers, but if they attack our people, we will respond. And we will make them understand that humanity is not prey. She turned to face the room. Send a message to the hegemony. Tell them exactly what we have done. Tell them about the bombs. Tell them how many worlds we can burn. And tell them this, if they want peace, they can have peace. If they want war, they will get fire. The message was sent 3 hours later. It traveled across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds, reaching the hegemony's capital in minutes. The Supreme Arbiter watched the recording in his throne room. He saw Doctor explain Project Ember. He saw the maps showing bombs on 400 of his worlds. He heard President's final words. For the first time in his ancient life, he felt something he did not recognize. Fear. But the hegemony had never retreated from a lesser species. They had never shown weakness. To back down now would make them look afraid. And if they looked afraid, their vassal species might get ideas. The Supreme Arbiter made his decision. Humanity was bluffing. They had to be. No species was crazy enough to start a war they could not win. No species would choose death over surrender. He gave the order to attack. He would soon learn how wrong he was. The 30 days passed like a held breath. On human worlds, people said goodbye to their families. Soldiers wrote letters they hoped would never be sent. Children were moved to underground shelters that might not protect them from anything. Everyone watched the stars and waited for death to fall from the sky. It came for Nu first. Nu was humanity's third largest colony, a world of green mountains and blue oceans. 40 million people lived there. They had built cities along the coastlines and farms in the valleys. It was a peaceful world, far from Earth, far from the border. That was why the hegemony chose it. Commander Shin was in charge of the defense fleet. He had 16 ships. The hegemony came with 300. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UENS, and watched the enemy fleet drop out of faster-than-light travel. The ships filled his sensors like a swarm of black insects. Each one was twice the size of his largest vessel. Each one carried weapons that could glass a continent. His communications officer was young, barely 25 years old. Her hands were shaking. "Commander, they are not responding to our hails." Shin nodded. He had not expected them to talk. The hegemony had made their choice. Now they would learn what that choice meant. "All ships," he said calmly, "form up around the We will hold them as long as we can, make every shot count. He opened a channel to the surface. New command, this is Commander Shin. Begin evacuation of all population centers. Move everyone to the deep shelters. You have maybe 2 hours. A voice crackled back. Commander, we cannot evacuate 40 million people in 2 hours. Then save as many as you can. He paused. It has been an honor serving with you all. He closed the channel and turned to face the enemy. The battle lasted 47 minutes. Shin's ships fought like demons. They dove into the hegemony formation, firing everything they had. They rammed enemy vessels when their weapons ran empty. They died screaming defiance at an empire that had never seen such resistance. There was the last ship standing. Its hull was burning. Half its crew was dead. Commander Shin sat in his command chair, blood running down his face from a wound on his forehead. A final transmission went out to Earth. His voice was steady, even as alarms screamed around him. Tell them we did not beg. Tell them we did not run. And tell them we were never afraid. The exploded 3 seconds later. New fell shortly after. Hegemony ships rained fire on the planet. Cities vanished in nuclear flame. Oceans boiled. Mountains melted. Of the 40 million people who had lived there that morning, less than 2 million survived in the deep shelters. On the Hegemony flagship, Fleet Commander watched the destruction with satisfaction. He was old, even by Hegemony standards. He had commanded fleets for over 1,000 years. He had crushed dozens of rebellious species. This one had been more troublesome than most, but the result was the same. Then the first report came in. A Hegemony world called had gone silent. No communications, no signals, nothing. Dismissed it as a technical failure. Then another report came, and another, and another. In the span of 1 hour, 12 Hegemony worlds went dark. When scouts finally reached, they found nothing but a field of debris where a planet used to be. The antimatter charges had detonated deep within the planet's core. The entire world had shattered like glass. 6 billion Hegemony citizens had died in an instant. It was the same on the other 11 worlds. Stared at the reports in disbelief. This was not possible. No lesser species had ever struck at Hegemony territory. No lesser species had ever killed so many of their people. Then a transmission arrived from Earth. President's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired. There were tears in her eyes, but her voice was made of iron. You killed millions of our people today. Children, families, innocent lives. They trusted us to protect them, and we failed. She leaned forward and saw something in her eyes that made his blood run cold. So now I am going to explain what happens next. You destroyed one of our worlds. We destroyed 12 of yours. That is the exchange rate. For every world of ours you burn, we will burn 12 of yours. For every human life you take, we will take 100 Hegemony lives. She paused. We have bombs on 400 of your worlds. You saw what happened to those first 12. That was just the beginning. Keep attacking us and we will keep burning you. We cannot defeat your fleets, but we can make sure that by the time this war ends, your empire is nothing but ash and dust. His hands trembled. He had lived for over 1,000 years. He had never felt fear like this. This is not a war you can win, President continued. This is a war where everyone loses. Stand down your fleets. Return to your borders. Let us live in peace, or watch your empire die. The transmission ended. Sat in silence for a long time. Around him, his officers waited for orders. They looked at him with eyes full of confusion and fear. For the first time in 1,000 years, Fleet Commander did not know what to do. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. For 10,000 years, the Hegemony had ruled without challenge. Species rose and fell. Empires were born and died. Through it all, the Hegemony remained eternal and untouchable. Every species that resisted them was crushed. Every rebellion was destroyed. The lesson was always the same: submit or die. But now, a small species from a forgotten corner of the galaxy had done the impossible. They had struck back. They had made the hegemony bleed. And the whole galaxy was watching. On the hegemony's capital world, the supreme arbiter faced chaos. The ruling houses were in open conflict. Representatives from the 12 destroyed worlds demanded justice. How could this happen? How could primitives kill so many of their people? But behind the anger there was something else: fear. Every ruling house realized the same terrible truth. Humanity had bombs on 400 worlds. Any of those worlds could be theirs. Any of those bombs could be under their feet right now. Lord, head of the oldest ruling house, confronted the arbiter in the great council chamber. You promised us an easy conquest. You said these humans would kneel in days. Instead, 12 of our worlds are gone. 60 billion of our people are dead. The supreme arbiter's black eyes showed nothing. They will be punished. We will destroy every human world. We will. And how many of our worlds will we lose? Interrupted. 20, 50, 100. He looked around the chamber. Mine is on their list. Is yours? The question hung in the air. No one answered, but everyone understood. The arbiter tried to restore order. We cannot back down. If we show weakness, every vassal species will think they can defy us. But even as he spoke, reports were coming in. Vassal species were already defying them. On 100 worlds, slaves stopped working. Servants refused orders. Soldiers who had been forced to fight for the hegemony threw down their weapons. They had watched the humans refuse to kneel. They had watched the humans make the masters bleed. If humans could do it, maybe they could too. Ambassador No had been waiting for this moment. She was a small woman with gray hair and a face that had seen many difficult things. She had spent 30 years as a diplomat, traveling to every corner of human space. Now she traveled somewhere far more dangerous. Her ship was old and slow, the kind that would not attract attention. She flew it to neutral space, to a hidden station where representatives of vassal species gathered in secret. They came from dozens of worlds. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and covered in scales. Some did not have bodies at all, existing only as patterns of light. They all had one thing in common: their people were slaves of the hegemony. Ambassador No stood before them and spoke simply. You have seen what we did. You know it is possible to hurt them. We are not strong enough to defeat them alone. Neither are you. But together, we might be strong enough to make them let us go. A representative from a lizard-like species spoke first. You are asking us to die. Even if we rebel, they will crush us. Maybe, No agreed. But think about what happens if you do not rebel. Think about your children. 100 generations from now, will your species even exist? Or will they have forgotten who they were, just like all the others? She pulled out a small device and set it on the table. This contains the technical specifications for antimatter charges. It contains training materials for covert operations. It contains everything you need to build your own version of Project Ember. The representative stared at the device. It was small enough to fit in a hand. It contained the power to burn worlds. We are offering you a choice, Ambassador No said. Keep your chains and live as slaves, or fight alongside us and maybe, just maybe, live as free people. She left the device on the table and walked out of the room. 3 days later, the first vassal species declared independence. The hegemony sent a fleet to crush them, but while the fleet was away, bombs detonated on 2 more hegemony worlds. Then another vassal species rebelled, and another, and another. General Han Minyu watched the reports from his command center on Earth. Red icons were appearing all over the galactic map. Each one was a rebellion. Each one was a world deciding that freedom was worth dying for. His aide, a young officer named, looked at the map with wide eyes. Sir, did we plan for this? Han Minyu shook his head slowly. "No, we only plan to survive. This is something else." "What is it?" The general was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, and there was both hope and sadness in his eyes. "This is what happens when you show people that the masters can bleed. Once they know it is possible, they start to believe. And once they believe, nothing can stop them." On the hegemony's capital, the supreme arbiter watched his empire begin to crumble. Rebellions were spreading faster than his fleets could respond. Every time they crushed one uprising, 3 more appeared. And always, there were the bombs. The humans had revealed less than 10% of their hidden weapons. They could keep burning hegemony worlds for years, maybe decades. For the first time in 10,000 years, the hegemony was losing. And in the darkness of space, on hidden stations and secret meeting places, the free species of the galaxy began to organize. They called themselves the Coalition. Their symbol was a burning star. A new age was beginning. 6 months had passed since the hegemony demanded humanity's surrender. In that time, everything had changed. The Eternal Empire was falling apart. 37 species had broken free from hegemony control. 100 more were fighting for their freedom. The great fleets that had once terrified the galaxy now spent all their time putting out fires that only spread faster. And the Supreme Arbiter was dead. His own ruling council had executed him. They said he had brought ruin upon the empire. They said his arrogance had cost them everything. In truth, they were simply looking for someone to blame, someone who was not themselves. The new leaders of the hegemony were desperate. Their empire was bleeding from 1,000 wounds. Their vassal species were in open revolt. Their citizens lived in fear, wondering if a bomb was hidden beneath their homes. They needed peace. So they sent a message to Earth, requesting negotiations. Admiral Park was chosen to represent humanity. He traveled to a neutral station in deep space, far from any planet, far from any star. It was a place where enemies could meet without fear of ambush. He did not go alone. When the hegemony delegation arrived, they expected to see a few human diplomats. Instead, they found themselves facing representatives from 37 species. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no bodies at all. All of them wore the symbol of the burning star. The Free World's Coalition had come to negotiate. Lord led the hegemony delegation. He was the most powerful of the ruling lords now, the one who had pushed for the arbiter's execution. He looked at the assembled species with barely hidden disgust. "We came to negotiate with humans," he said, "not with our former servants." Admiral Park stepped forward. His uniform was simple, but he carried himself like a man who had seen the worst the galaxy could offer and had not broken. "These are not your servants anymore," he said. "These are free people, and they will be part of this negotiation, or there will be no negotiation." His eyes narrowed. "You cannot make demands. Your species is small. Your worlds are few. You should be grateful we are willing to talk at all." Park smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Let me explain something to you. We still have bombs on 380 of your worlds. We have revealed the location of only 20. Right now, there are charges hidden on planets you care about deeply. Perhaps, the worlds where your children live." He paused. "We do not want to use them. We are not monsters, but we will use them if you force us to. So I suggest you start treating this negotiation seriously." Was silent for a long moment, then slowly he sat down. The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. Humanity and the Coalition demanded complete freedom for all former vassal species. They demanded recognition of their territorial sovereignty. They demanded reparations for new and every other world that had been attacked. The hegemony representatives argued. They threatened. They tried to divide the Coalition species against each other. Nothing worked. The Coalition stood together. Every time the hegemony refused a demand, Admiral Park would calmly remind them how many bombs were still hidden on their worlds. In the end, the hegemony signed everything. The treaty was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as Lord put his seal on documents that ended 10,000 years of domination. His hand was shaking. Admiral Park spoke as the cameras recorded. His words would be remembered for centuries. You came to our world and demanded that we kneel. You expected us to surrender. You thought we were weak because we were small. You were wrong. He looked directly at, we burned your worlds. We freed your slaves. We broke your empire. And now you will sign this treaty and you will go home and you will never threaten humanity again. That is what happens when you mistake human kindness for weakness. That is what happens when you try to make us kneel. He paused. We do not kneel, we never have, we never will. The treaty was signed. On Earth, President addressed the human race for the last time. She was stepping down from office. The war had aged her. Her hair was white now and deep lines marked her face, but her eyes were still strong. We have won, she said, but we must remember what it cost. New is gone. Millions of our people died. Families were torn apart. Children grew up without parents. We carry those losses with us forever. She looked into the camera, speaking to every human across 12 star systems. But we also carry something else. Pride. We showed the galaxy what humanity is made of. We showed them that we would rather die than live as slaves. We showed them that the fire inside us burns brighter than any weapon they could build. She smiled, and for a moment she looked like the young woman who had first taken office, full of hope and determination. The galaxy is different now. Free people walk on worlds that were once prisons. Children are born who will never know what it means to be owned. That is our legacy. That is what we fought for. She stood a little. To those who come after us, remember this day. Remember that freedom is never free. Remember that sometimes you have to be willing to burn everything to keep your soul. And remember that as long as one human heart beats, we will never, ever kneel. The broadcast ended. Years later, in a quiet archive on a distant hegemony world, a young historian studied the human hegemony war. He was trying to understand how such a small species had defeated such a mighty empire. He found his answer in the final transmission of Commander Shin, recorded as his ship burned over Nu. The commander's face was bloody. Flames were visible behind him, but his voice was calm. Tell them we did not die for territory. We did not die for resources. We died because kneeling was never an option. And when they ask what humans are made of, tell them this: we are made of fire. The historian closed the file. He finally understood. Some species could be conquered. Some species could be ruled. But some species carried a flame inside them that would rather destroy everything than be extinguished. Humanity was such a species. And now the galaxy knew it.